Good day, everyone. In this part of our report, we will discuss how Dr. Jose Rizal exposed the social problems of the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period through his writings. One of the major issues Rizal revealed was the abuse of power and corruption by the authorities, especially Spanish friars and officials. In No Limitang Here, Rizal showed how friars like Padre Damaso misused their religious authority to control people, silence criticism, and manipulate the justice system. Filipinos who spoke against them were punished, imprisoned, or even killed. This abuse became even darker in El Filibusterismo, where corruption, bribery, and injustice were openly practiced. So Rizal showed how the government no longer served the people, but instead protect those in power. Through these novels, Rizal exposed how authority was used not to help society but to oppress it. One of the major issues Jose Rizal exposed was the lack of quality education and intellectual freedom during the Spanish period. So in El Filibusterismo, Filipino students requested an academy of Spanish language so they could gain equal opportunities. Instead of being supported, they were mocked and treated as a threat by authorities, showing that education was intentionally limited to control Filipinos. Rizal also explained this further in Indolence of the Filipino, where he argued that Filipinos were not naturally lazy. Rather, poor governance, forced labor, discrimination, and the absence of proper education destroyed people's motivation to improve. Rizal believed that ignorance was created by the system, and that true progress would be possible through accessible and quality education and freedom of thought. In the Indolence of the Filipino, Jose Rizal addressed the accusation that Filipinos were naturally lazy. He strongly disagreed with this idea and explained that what appeared as indolence was the result of Spanish colonial rule. So Filipinos were forced into labors, heavily taxed, and treated unfairly, which made the hard work meaningless because its rewards were often taken away. So Rizal also pointed out the lack of quality education during the Spanish period, which education was controlled by friars and focused on the obedience rather than critical thinking or practical skills. So because Filipinos were denied opportunities to learn and improve, so they lost motivation and confidence. Those who showed intelligence and leadership were often suspected of rebellion, creating fear and silence. So through this essay, Rizal emphasized that Filipinos were not inferior or lazy by nature, but victims of an unjust system. So his goal was to defend Filipinos' dignity and showed that true progress could only achieved proper education and fair governance and social reform.
Through his novels, No Limitang Here and El Filibusterismo, he exposed the deep problems of Philippine society, which includes the abuse of power, corruption, and injustice. More than a century later, the question still remains: did these problems truly disappear, or did they only change form? During the colonial period, Rizal observed how corruption was deeply embedded in governance. Officials abused their authority, public funds were misused, and projects meant to help the people often served only the powerful. In El Filibusterismo, Rizal showed how government systems failed ordinary Filipinos, creating suffering instead of progress. Today, the Philippines is no longer under colonial rule. We have our own government, laws, democratic institutions, and many more. However, the same issues Rizal criticized are still present, especially in corruption involving public projects. Corruption in public projects often appears in the form of overpriced materials. Aside from that is unfinished constructions and substandard infrastructure. Funds meant for roads, schools, and hospitals are sometimes diverted for personal gain. As a result, communities suffer from unsafe roads, overcrowded classrooms, and inadequate public services. The problems Rizal exposed were not just issues of his time. They were warnings for the future. Corruption in public projects is not only a failure of government, but also a test of our values as citizens. During Rizal's time, education was a privilege, not a right. Only the wealthy and the favored had access to quality schooling. Many Filipinos were denied education, keeping them powerless and dependent. Rizal criticized this system, believing that an uneducated nation could never be truly free. So today, education is recognized as a basic right. Public schools and state universities aim to provide free or affordable education. However, access to quality education remains unequal. Many students still struggle because of poverty, lack of resources, and limited facilities. Despite government programs, challenges still remains. Some schools lack classrooms, teachers, and learning materials. In remote areas, students walk long distances just to attend class. The digital divide has also widened the gap, as not all learners have access to stable internet or devices. When education is unequal, opportunities become unequal as well. Results writings reminds us that progress is only possible when knowledge is shared and not restricted.
Rizal criticized corruption, abuse of power, and leaders who serve themselves instead of the people. As future civil engineers, we play a direct role in addressing the same problems today. So first, through ethical engineering practice, Rizal believe in integrity and honesty. And as engineers, this means refusing shortcuts, falsified quantities, and substandard materials that put lives at risk. Second, through the honest use of public funds, many infrastructure projects are funded by taxpayers, so civil engineers must ensure that budgets are used properly, designs are realistic, and projects are completed without corruption or waste. So third, by designing inclusive and sustainable infrastructure, Rizal dreamt of a society where progress benefits everyone, not just the elite. Engineers should design roads, drainage systems, schools, and housing that serve communities, especially the poor and vulnerable. So lastly, nation building through profession. Rizal used his intellect to awaken the nation. In the same way, civil engineers can help build a just and progressive Philippines by serving people, not just the profits. And lastly, if Rizal were alive today, he would expect engineers to design systems that protect lives, serve the public, and uphold national dignity.
The idea from Rizal that impacted me the most is the truth that no action will become meaningful if one's resolve or intention is not wholeheartedly decided. No matter how many times one revolted, if done so without proper meaning, the result will always be bound to fail. As a future engineer, this idea of Rizal made me realize that, indeed, every action must have proper intention. From today onwards, I shall strive with the intention to become an engineer that is proper, morally grounded, and has care for the environment and people around me. As much as my goal is to become financially stable, I should instill in my mind that I enrolled in this program, worked hard all these years to be a civil engineer and not anything else. I want to be a civil engineering professional who actually takes part in building the nation, not just simply building structures.
The Rizal idea that impacted me most is his stand against corruption and abuse of power. He believed that progress is meaningless if it benefits only a few people. As a future engineer, this reminds me to always work honestly and avoid practices that could endanger lives or waste public funds. I want to become a Filipino professional who values integrity and uses my skills to truly serve the people.
The Rizal idea that impacted me the most is his belief in self-improvement and rational thinking. This idea will influence me as a future engineer by guiding me to solve problems carefully, logically, and based on evidence. Because of Rizal's example, I want to become a Filipino professional who is competent, ethical, and committed to continuous learning and service to the community.
Of all Rizal's idea, his practical service in the pit that impacted me most because he wasn't just a writer but he was also a man of action who built water systems and improved town infrastructure using his scientific mind. And this showed me that education is only truly valuable when it is used to uplift others. So, as a future engineer, this influences me to look beyond just blueprints and calculations. It reminds me that engineering is a service to the community and I have learned that my role as an engineer isn't just to build structures but to also solve real-world Filipino problems like disaster resilience and sustainable energy.
More than 100 years ago, Rizal exposed corruption and inequality in our society. Sadly, many of those problems still exist today. We see corruption in public projects when funds meant for schools, roads, and hospitals are misused. And even if the education is now right, not all students have equal access to quality learning. So it makes me realize that Rizal's message is still relevant. His novels such as the No Limit Angere and El Filibusterismo were not just stories of the past. They were also warnings for the future. So real change does not only depend on leaders but also on us, citizens.
What Rizal idea impact you most? I think it's on the belief that intellect without social conscience is useless. Because Rizal thought that education is a weapon for liberation, which is meant to serve the people rather than just achieve personal success. Also, how will this influence you as a future engineer? For me, it drives me to treat engineering a civic responsibilities, like on Rizal's water system in Dapitan. I will prioritize projects that provide basic needs to marginalize and uphold strict ethics to fight the social cancer of corruption in infrastructure. And what kind of professional do you want to become? For me, I want to be a nationalist engineer who is technically world class but remains socially rooted, which is committed to building a resilient and more equitable Philippines like that.
I'm Louise Justine May Santiago. One recent idea that impacted me the most is his belief that social problems are created by systems, not by the people. In his essay, The Adolescence of Filipino, Rizal explained that Filipinos were not lazy by nature, but were made powerless by poor governance, lack of education, and injustice. This changed how I view responsibility, not just individually, but structurally. As a future engineer, this idea reminds me that engineering is not only about technical skills, but about serving people fairly. Infrastructure further improve lives that favor only those in power. I want to be an engineer who values transparency, quality, and safety, and who understands that every project affects communities. I want to become a Filipino professional who is competent, ethical, and socially aware. Someone who uses my profession to help build a nation that is just inclusive and truly progressive, as Rizal envisioned.
One of Rizal's ideas that impacted me the most is his belief that education is the foundation of progress. He showed that change did not always begin with violence or power, but with knowledge, critical thinking, and courage to speak the truth. Through his writings, he proved that intellect can be stronger than weapons. As a future engineer, this reminds me that my responsibility is not only to build structures, but also to build solutions that genuinely serve people. Engineering is not just about calculations and designs, it is about integrity, accountability, and using technical knowledge to improve society. Rizal inspires me to practice my profession with competence and moral courage, especially when faced with pressure or ethical challenges. I want to become a Filipino professional who is not only skilled but also principled, someone who values excellence, serves the community, and remains socially aware. Just like Rizal, I hope to use my knowledge not only for personal success but also to contribute to the development of our country.
The Rizal idea that impacted me most is his belief in self-improvement and rational thinking, which is shown through his dedication to learning, traveling abroad, and writing. It reminds me that progress starts with being disciplined, open to learning, and making decisions based on reason. As a future engineer, this guides me to solve problems carefully, rely on evidence, and keep improving my skills. It also teaches me to learn from mistakes and stay committed to growth. Because of this, I want to become a Filipino professional who is competent, ethical, and always learning. Someone who uses knowledge to help the community and contribute to a better society.